Bonjour, hello, Ajia, Gwegwe. Good afternoon. Welcome to Rue Adadegan Street, the Présence Autochtone podcast, the weekly podcast. This time, my colleague Alexandre is not with me. He is on parental leave with a newborn child, so it's good news that he is not here since he is taking care of the baby. And we say hello to Alexandre if he is listening right now. And rapidly, because we are very honored to have guest from the Lower Sioux Community in Minnesota. Hello, Danny Desjarlais. And give me, please, the authorization to present who we are, because we think that probably we have new listeners this week from United States, from Minnesota and other Indian parts of Indian country. And so Rue Adadegan is the name, Adadegan Street is the name we gave to this podcast, because recently we obtained it. Has been a long process, but there is a new name for a street that was named from the infamous Amherst general, genocidal general, and now there is a Mohawk name to that are now on the panel, and this is the new name of the street. It means brotherhood and sisterhood, which is the same words in the Mohawk language. So we are really proud to have it in Montreal, and so it is also the label for our podcast, and also Terres en Vue Land Insights, whom I am the director, is Native organization that have a different cultural activity to spread the good news about the Renaissance, cultural and social renaissance of our First Nations community all over the Americas. And we are mostly known for an annual festival, First Peoples Festival, Présence Autochtone, that took place each month of August in Montreal. So if you happen to come in Montreal in the middle of August, you will find many activities around the films, arts, and concert celebrating the indigenous cultures in the city of Montreal. So this is us, but we are not here to speak about us, but to speak about bioarchitectural initiative that took place in your community, Danny. So would you please present yourself and speak about the Hempcrete project?
Well, thanks for having me, first off. My name is Danny Desjarlais. I'm from the Lower Sioux Indian Community, as you said. But we're also known as the Chanshayapi. That is the name we go by. We're federally recognized as the Lower Sioux Indian Community. It's a small reservation in southwest Minnesota. But I like how you were saying the change of name, and so the term Sioux is actually a derogatory term towards our people, but that's what the government recognizes us as. But we also go by the Chanshayapi, and so a lot of our signage and stuff around here is getting changed as well. So yeah, that's really good, and I think it opens up the conversation for for the real history to be told. And so I really like that, the change of names of how you talked about your studio being named that as well.
Yes, this is the same for my nation. The Frenches had called us Montagnier. It was not really derogatory, but it was not the way we speak about ourselves. So now the term Innu or Ilnu is more and more in use rather than Montagnier, which is a thing of the past. Interestingly enough, when you look at Illinois, the state, we know what it means, because Ilnu, Assi, means the land of the Indian. So the land of the Innu. So this for us is sound familiar, Illinois. And how do you pronounce your again, Chincha?
Chanchayapi.
Chincha.
It's Chanchayapi, yeah. So it's where they mark the trees red is what it
good
loosely translates to, I guess.
And also there is the initiative that is very special, the construction with hemp. And wow, for me it was very amazing. Of course, I knew that hemp can be used as a textile to give linen, but to have concrete material for building or housing construction, it's completely new to me, and I guess for many other people too. So can you tell us about it and how it happens to be something that was taken care of in your community?
Well, hemp, like you said, is historically used as textiles, and the part of the plant that we use is actually the inside of the stem, and usually the byproduct of when you're processing for textiles. And so we're taking the byproduct of those products and building a house out of it. And it's new to most people. Like it was new to me when I came in. All I thought of hemp was textiles as well. You talk about, hemp necklaces, hemp rope, hemp t-shirts, or whatever. Nobody knows that you can build houses out of it. And so it is like a novelty thought or whatever when you first talk about it, and it almost sounds crazy. And then when you actually see it, see the building material take place and happen, it's really quite simple. We're only using the inside of the stem of a hemp plant. It's basically broken up into wood chips, and that's mixed with a lime-based binder and water. So all natural products, really simple ingredients, and that's your entire wall system after it's been framed up. You still have to structurally build the house, but the Hempcrete basically replaces everything else in your wall system. And as far as how it works as a building material, it's so much more simple than a lot of other building materials you work with. Once you get your hands on it, it is it's pretty primitive how it goes together.
And to have those block of material, do you have to you have only to dry them on the sun, or do you have to put it in some kind of fire or heat?
Well, the mixture together, the lime-based binder, the water, and the hemp hurd, which is the inside of the stem, we call it the hurd, that being mixed together, the hydrated lime already wants to start turning back into limestone once it gets mixed with the water. And so it begins to cure itself out already by a carbonation effect and turning back into stone, basically, is what it's doing. And so it already is drying itself out, so there's no need for firing these panels or blocks in big kilns or anything like that, or even putting fans. They're already starting to cure. You do need to have it, you can't just trap the moisture in. It does need to be allowed to cure, to dry out. But as far as like drying them out with heaters or anything like that, no, you don't need to do that. It's not like a concrete block. And it's the term hempcrete is actually a little misleading because it makes you think that it's the same properties as concrete, and it's really not. Hempcrete is just our wall insulation. It does have some masonry qualities when it's finished being cured, as it kind of feels solid like a stone, which it technically is. It's going back into that limestone form. But it's non-structural, it's non-load bearing. You can't just build your entire house out of this hempcrete. You got to have some type of structure to hold the weight of the actual house. And so that's where the word hempcrete gets a little misleading. But I guess it does replace everything else in the wall system though, and so it is basically your entire wall system after you're done with the framing.
So you have to make somehow a kind of a traditional structure in wood, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then in there you insert the hempcrete blocks.
Well, yes, I guess technically if you're using blocks. So there's 4 different methods of doing hempcrete. You can do cast in place on site, where you're mixing the hempcrete right on site. Your structure of your house will already be framed up. Then you mix up the hempcrete right on site and you place it in the forms, and then it cures right on site. Then there's, and you're doing that just by hands, by filling up buckets, putting it into forms. Then there's another method of hempcrete where it's wet, where you still mix it on site, but it's being applied with a spray, with an easy spray system. And then same thing, it's being mixed wet on site, being placed wet, and then it has to cure on site. And then you get into prefabricated panels or prefabricated blocks would be your other 2 methods of installing hempcrete. And those would typically be done off-site in a factory or something, and then you would cure out the panels or cure out the blocks there, and so that when they show up on site, they're ready to just be finished. There is no curing involved. And still then you would still have your structure built, and then you would place your blocks. But if you were doing it with prefabricated panels, depending on how your structure was or how it was engineered, you would either just need your foundation or your floor, and then the panels could tie right into that. Or if you had it set up with how your frame was already there and the panels fit inside that framework, you could also do it like that, basically just larger blocks at that point. The way we chose to do it was with the panels already with the structures inside of them. And so I don't know if you're familiar with like a SIP panel with a structurally insulated panel. Basically, it's already prefabricated, comes on site, ready to be put together, and it's part of the structure as well. And so that's the route we went. And so the panels show up on site, cured already, and the frame of the wall is built inside as well. And so then you just tie these panels together on top of your floor or on top of your foundation, and that creates your wall system. Then you would add your roof on top of that. And so those are the 4 applications of hempcrete. You can also get into retrofitting, but then that would just be one of those 4 methods used to do the retrofit, where you would take out all the old wall material and replace it with hempcrete or hemp blocks or whichever method you want to choose. And so, yeah, that brings us into talking about the curing of it, and so the curing has to be done on site if you're placing it wet. Otherwise, if you're doing it off site, then it comes cured and it's ready to be finished, and so I think a lot of the contractors are going to want to go that route, just because then the job can be completed right away. Hempcrete has to be able to finish curing out, and it takes a few weeks for that curing process to start and to happen, and it all depends on what the weather's like in your area at the time as well. So that is, I guess, the differences in the 2, whether you're bringing it prefabricated or you're placing it on site. It would just be the curing time.
Well, it seems so easy when you speak about it, almost child play. But I suppose when you wanted to start this kind of construction, it was not that easy. And I think it is in 2018 only that hemp culture was legal in the United States. So at the beginning, you were almost criminals. Mm.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so I think that's the kind of the the stigma that surrounds hemp is that it is this bad thing. And so we like to say the word industrial hemp when we talk about hemp, just because it, I guess, opens that up to talk about the industrial applications that hemp provides. They say there's over 20,000 uses for the plant, and now you see people saying there's over 50,000 uses because of all the bioplastics, and now there's hemp batteries and all these different things, and so it's really, the industrial hemp plant is not a bad, it shouldn't have this bad stigma surrounding it, but I guess that's what's been created, and those are the barriers we got to break down. And so it does almost seem criminal when you first get started, and you almost do get that feeling from outsiders. Some of the first questions they ask is, are you guys all smoking these houses? And just, ridiculous questions. But really, other countries that didn't outlaw hemp and didn't outlaw industrial hemp, they've been thriving with the hemp plant for decades. And so we're late to the game. We're not inventing anything new here, and everything that we're doing here has already been done somewhere else, and the hemp plant, the stigma around it, we really just got to get past that. And so in 2018, with the Farm Bill here in the United States, it does allow now farmers to be able to grow industrial hemp, and then it's opening these markets here in the United States. But we still got a long ways to go, here in the United States. We're a long ways behind other countries, and we'll get there eventually. It's just the markets are so much in their infant stages right now that it's that it's just really hard to see the end of the road, or the end of the tunnel, for a lot of these companies that are trying to get started up in it. But as for us, we were fortunate enough in 2016, we actually were able to start growing hemp 2 years before the Farm Bill through a special permit with the state. The state of Minnesota adopted some special permit in 2016. And so we had started doing it then. We had started growing back then. And, even still till now, and it's 2024, you still get people that, look at it like it's something criminal, which it's not. It's been legal for 8 years now. We've been doing it for 8 years, and it's still, we get people that come in and think we're, selling drugs or something, and we're just trying to build houses for our community members, healthier houses for our community members. And so it's just the stigma that surrounds it that makes it seem criminal. But the people that are actually in the hemp industry that are doing it, we know it's not criminal. We know that, like, we need this. This is a necessity for us that we've kind of been, it's been kept from us for too long, and so it's time to start using it, and benefiting from all of its great uses, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it's in your communities it's the same than here. The baby boom didn't stop in the 60s. There is still, like I was speaking about Alexandre, but usually in our communities there is a lot. The birth rate is important, so we need a house, and usually the state help or support is not enough to the need we have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Especially here, we're a small community, very small land base, not a whole lot of people compared to other communities. And I think our last census said that we needed 200 homes here. There's, it's not like we have homeless people out on the streets or anything, but it's a lot of overcrowding and a lot of multi-generations in each household. And so with that, census saying we need 200 houses, we got a lot of work to do. We can't just be building 1 or 2 houses a year. That's going to take us 100 years to meet that 200 houses, and then we're going to need 500 more houses by then. And yeah, the baby boom didn't stop. I have 5 kids of my own, and so I know how much we need the houses here. But to be able to build the houses for our community members with our own community members, I think that's the biggest thing here. Take the hemp aspect out of it, and just that. That's what we're doing. We're rebuilding our community right now with our community members. And then seeing our community members get to live in these houses afterwards, I think that's the biggest part about it. But then add in the hemp to it, and add in how much better these houses are going to be, and how much more quality of life people get when they live in a healthier home, or even just a better built home. Like a lot of the houses we have here, they're slapped together, and they're run down and get moldy real fast. They're not built out of the best materials. And so, you wake up every day and you're in a house that's not to the best quality, and you're breathing in mold, and, just, it's not a good way to start your day or to end your day every day. And then you go sleep in it. We spend more than half of our lives indoors in these houses. We should be waking up in nice, healthy homes. We should be going home at night and going to bed and sleeping in a healthy home. Same with our kids. We're raising these kids in these houses that aren't up to par, and we're sending them to schools that aren't up to par, and they have to spend all their time in these schools, in these buildings, and it's just we're setting them up for failure. We're not even giving them a good chance, and it's I think that's the most important thing, is getting our community members into some healthier homes, healthier buildings, I guess.
I suppose that you had, since the stigma was coming from outside the community, but I suppose inside the community you had some resistance to the change you wanted to bring.
Definitely. And for surely when we were just growing it, I think a lot of that, there's just a lack of knowledge is what it comes down to, and with the stigma, it was a lot of our elders in the community, they just consider hemp being weed. And so right away they think we're growing weed or whatever, and so, but that went on for a while, and it still went on even when we first started building with the Hempcrete. There was still a lot of negative remarks and a lot of resistance, I guess. But once we had the first building that people could see and touch, especially when it was a house, when it was a big full house that they could walk in and see that this is the end product of what we were growing and what we're trying to do here, then they all, even the people that were against it, they are, they want hempcrete houses now. They see the potential for it and the benefits, I guess. And so the resistance was there, and it still kind of even was there until this past year, once we got the houses up, and now it's just, everybody's rallying around it. There might still be some, negative people that just, for the lack of information, like I said, there's always, you can't please everybody, but I bet you any of the naysayers, if they just came in and asked, hey, what's going on with these hemp houses or whatever, and we sat down for a conversation, they would love Hempcrete after the conversation as well.
So it started, I suppose, with a model house that the community peoples were invited to visit, and but after that you need people that wanted to live into that brand new structures you happen to offer, and what were their how this happened, and what was the reaction?
Well, that is another part of it, I guess. We do have a long housing list and a big list of people that need houses and want to be next into the house. And so I think it's been a little bit of an issue for housing to exactly figure out how they were going to do it. And so at first it was going to be used as the duplex was going to be used as temporary emergency housing, and then they were talking about actually just selling it as a whole. And then I think now they've decided to do it as rentals. So they don't technically, nobody is even living in that first structure yet. I think very soon they're going to have somebody in there. But I know the want for them and the need for them has been really big. I think whoever gets into these houses, there's going to be somebody upset that they didn't get in, and so I don't want to be even involved in that part of the process. I'll just keep building them, and then that can be the housing department's problem after that.
When do you think you will have built the 200 houses?
That's a good question. So we have some drawings and some, what do you call them? I guess some surveys. So they did all the surveys and they did some drawings and everything for us for a new housing development. And this housing development has like 60 or 70 lots, and each lot can either have, a single house or a duplex or a fourplex or whatever we're going to build on each one of these lots, depending on the need. And so right there, I mean, if that's 70 lots and you put, 3 houses on each lot, that's 210 houses there. You're getting a big chunk there, and not thinking it's going to happen like right now, but if they're already doing the drawings for it, I think it's, I can see it happening. It's just the thing we get hung up on is we don't have the funding. We're not a rich community. We don't have rich community members that can just build a brand new house or even afford to renovate the house that they live in now. And so unless we can find some type of funding or some type of income with the hemp, it might take us 100 years to do these 200 houses. But I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Maybe one of your listeners has some funding avenues for us, and so that's where we're at right now. We definitely have the ability to go and build 200 houses, and our leadership and our tribal council has been amazing. They've supported us this far, and they want to see everything built with hemp. And our school, we have an immersion school here that teaches the kids from ages birth to age 6, that teaches them Dakota language as their first language. And now they want to expand that school, and they want to build that out of Hempcrete as well. And so, going back to talking about sending our kids to these schools and making them, be surrounded by these not good materials, I think it would be good to showcase that and to build a school out of Hempcrete. And who knows, maybe all these kids won't be getting sick when the other kids are getting sick around. And we'll see. I guess it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'd like to see those 200 houses get started today, but we don't have the funding, I guess.
Yeah, you are touching the big difference between Canada and United States. Here, the communities we can get usually supports, not all we need, of course, but some supports from the state. But on the other hand, we don't have the extended sovereignty that you have in United States. So that's the big difference. But it's not easy neither here, because the state, they comes with their own regulation, and often it doesn't fit with the need we have on we know we have on the ground, and that's a lot of difficulty too. But I hope. But you didn't get any help from the state or the federal government and agency that can give you some support?
Yeah, we have gotten support in the past. So that's basically how we've gotten most of our funding for anything that we've done with hemp as far as farming. We didn't even talk about that we're processing hemp as well. And so we're farming and growing the hemp, then we're processing it into the hemp herd that we use for building material. And then we're also building with it, and so it's a full circle economy. But that was how we got all of that even going, was through different funding. And we haven't been able to continue. There's not a person out there that's just that has offered to continue funding us. Like, we've gotten grants for farming stuff or for agriculture, then we got a grant for the processing equipment. Then there was a grant to help us build the building where the processing equipment and everything is going to be housed, and that building actually just got finished up. And so, yeah, we have actually gotten a lot of help with funding, but we need, I guess, more help. We just don't have the revenue. Maybe once we really get going and we can start making these prefabricated walls or prefabricated blocks, or doing on-site builds for people, or consulting, or whatever it is, once we start bringing in a revenue, then we could possibly start funding our own projects. But I think that's a few years out as well. It's, just getting into the farming of hemp is a big industry, and it's an expensive industry. Then getting into the processing of hemp is a whole nother industry, which is expensive as well. Then, the construction side, that all of that equipment and tools and everything is expensive. And so it's a lot going on. And so there's a lot of funding needed, to really get it started. And I think that's where a lot of the communities probably don't make it over the hump, is they lose the funding along the way, because there is just so much that goes into getting to where we are now. It's a steep hill, and it's a long hill. It's nothing easy. And, anyone in the hemp industry, I guess, these types of stuff, this can almost make you go insane. It's such a steep climb, and so you almost got to already be partway insane to keep to keep doing it. It's just such a, there's a lot of roadblocks, I guess, to get through. But we've just been fortunate to have the leadership as well. I can't say enough about that, because there is so many other communities out there. There's 570 some tribes, federally recognized tribes in the United States, and expanded into Canada is like 700 or 600 and some, or however many exactly. But that's so much potential out there. There's so many communities that could be doing this and can be, tapping into this. It's just I guess there's just a lot of potential there, and it's we're not doing anything special, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And everybody could start doing this if their leadership would just, take the, I don't want to say risk, but, take the chance and invest into their community, because that is what you're doing. You're investing into your community for your community members. And it really is like a way to take back your sovereignty, or to take back your community, by providing them with jobs, houses, better houses.
Yeah. I saw that for the hemp culture, you had also to rent somehow, or to give contract to local farmers. And I thought probably there is a paradox here. Probably this is on your own ancestral lands that now you have to rent to have this culture. But on the other hand, it can also give you support from your neighbors that will have some benefit of your initiative.
Yeah, most of the land around here is the most fertile soil in the country. We lead the nation in like soybeans and sugar beet production. These two counties surrounding us, and so yeah, it's beautiful farmland here, and it was all it was all ours at one point, our, this is where we roamed. I don't want to call it our land because we didn't own it, but it was, this is our traditional land. This is where our people have lived forever. This is where our creation stories come from. And so it is a little bit disheartening or sad, or can make people angry when we do have to go and try to buy this land back from the farmers, or try and get it back, or even go and ask them to farm it for us. And so, yeah, it can create a little bit of, tension or whatever. But I think in reality, it's, there's no going back now, is what I'm saying. And so all we can do is go forward and try and just, do what we can to do what we can, I guess, and just leave it better than we found it. And so I think working with the local farmers and getting them on board on this hemp train, I think it's only going to make it better for everybody involved, for them, for us, for Mother Nature, for the planet. I think a lot more farmers, especially in our area, could benefit from growing some hemp or adding it into their crop rotation. Especially with the corn prices being as low as they have been, I know a lot of the farmers in South Dakota and North Dakota that grew hemp, they actually made more off of hemp, or just the same amount off of hemp as they would have if they grew corn. But then they're also not having to add all of these pesticides and fertilizers into the soil, because hemp requires much less of both, in some cases doesn't require any fertilizers or any pesticides. And so that gives the farmer a break on their checkbook, for that year. And then also hemp is a lot easier to manage while it's growing. And so then you don't have to use as much machinery, you don't have to use as much labor. And so that's also saving you. But then the soil afterwards, so the farmers that have been adding it to their crop rotation, the years after they grow hemp, they actually get a yield bump, or a bump in their yield, and it helps, it improves the soil. It's a natural soil remediation when the root system of the hemp plant goes down so far and brings up so much nutrients and breaks it up. And it just does a lot more for the soil than what we're doing right now with our common agriculture, I guess, practice, where we're just, pouring synthetic fertilizers onto it, growing something, pulling it right off, and then we just keep doing that over and over. Whereas if we add some hemp in each year, it's giving that soil a break, it's pulling up more nutrients, it's giving your checkbook a break. I mean, I think, like I said, I think it's only going to benefit the farmers, but then it's going to benefit us as well, because we're going to be able to use that end product. They're going to be able to sell other parts of the plant. We're just talking about the inside of the stem. They can also sell the outside of the stem. They can sell the flower of it. They can sell the grain of it, the seed, the inside of the seed. There's so many other uses for it, and different products that can be made from it, that the farmer that grows it is only going to benefit the more that these markets come online. They're going to be in position, ready, and these markets are coming online. They're only going to continue to grow here in the United States, and that's a big thing. And then everybody can work together. I mean, we can't, like I said, we can't go back in time, but we can all work together, to go forward.
And I understood also that hemp is, I would say, carbon-wise, it can capture the carbon better than other plants.
Yeah, and so I think what I read, I don't know if this is the exact numbers, but something like around every ton of hemp that's grown, it sequesters 1.6 tons of carbon, so it's a carbon negative material. And the reason it does it is because it grows so fast, and it's sequestering all that carbon, from growing through photosynthesis. And hemp grows like a weed, and grows taller and faster than any other plants that it grows next to it, and produces so much more biomass as well when it's growing, because it grows just so fast. And that's what makes it such a, a carbon capture material, and such a, just a good carbon cap, a carbon sequester is what the hemp plant is, and it's like a superhero at that. But if we don't do something with that carbon, it just goes back into the atmosphere. And so we can grow all of the hemp we want, but if we don't put it into a product that's going to store it and keep it in there, it's just going to off gas and go back into the environment. You could turn it into animal feed and the animals are going to belch it, and that's going to go back into the atmosphere. You can put it into whatever else and it's going to start off gassing. But if you put it into a wall system or a building material and it's mix it in with the lime and it's all trapped in, turning back into limestone, basically petrifying. Now you've trapped that carbon into that wall and it doesn't go back. It's a carbon sink and it's locked in there for the entire life of that wall. And so it's, it is the hemp plant, while it's growing, it is a super carbon sequester, but then we have to do something with that carbon, once it's done being grown. So that's where the building really is like a big part of that total end carbon footprint, I guess, or your full embodied carbon of your entire projects. I guess that's what it would really come down to if you do a full life cycle analysis, when this product's all the way at the end of its life cycle, where is the carbon actually going, And so I think it's also a big part that, goes into it. And so you do have to do something with it. We put it into a hempcrete wall and that carbon is stuck there. And with these big companies all trying to say they're going to be net zero carbon by 2050 or 2060 or whatever their claims are, well, they're going to have to start doing something with some type of natural materials. It's the only way. We can't keep building everything with plastics and concretes and all these materials that are huge carbon footprints. We need to start doing a lot more with these carbon sinks, like what hempcrete is.
And going back to housing, I think that, my point of view, it should be economically wise because you don't have to transport materials from outside. You can have all the trained workers to build a house in the community, and you control horizontally everything from the culture to the finished product.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of sets us apart in the hemp industry right now, or in the hemp building industry. Most of these houses that get built in the United States, they're for wealthy people and they're not being built by somebody locally. The materials are probably getting shipped from somewhere. And so the carbon footprint goes up, the price goes up, everything goes up. The way we're doing it here, all hyper local with our own employees, our own product, our own materials, trying to keep everything as local as possible. But mainly it is the work and everything, keeping all of that local with your own guys, your own crew, because that is where you're going to save so many costs on subcontractors, and the extra 20-30% they're going to add on for materials, and the extra 20-30% they're going to add on for labor and for the other subcontractors that they might hire in. And so you're going to save so much money if you could just train your own people. I keep telling everybody we're nothing special. We're just 5 guys 5 community members. We could go to any res right now, and we could find 5 guys right now that are ready to work, that are looking for a job. We could train them how to do hempcrete, and they could start building back their entire community right now as well. And so I think that's the biggest part, is just finding the local crew and doing it, because the materials are starting to become more readily available and more locally available. And so really, you don't have to be the hemp farmer. You don't have to be the hemp processor. But if you want to start building, you can just train your guys to be the builders, and you can get the materials for pretty cheap costs. They're not that as expensive as they have been in the past. And so now I think is the perfect time to start getting into that, to start training your community members how to work with this material, The prices are only going to go down on the material. And so it's a good time to get into it. And it's, like I said, it's super primitive. Hempcrete is super simple to work with. I think just the more people that start doing it, the more contractors start doing it, it's only going to continue to grow.
Now you have all that expertise. Is there other than podcasts, people or other tribes that are interested in your experience, and now you can charge a lot of money to train people and explain how it works, because you are now probably one of the best specialists in North America.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people reach out to us, a lot of different tribes, and we would love to go to every res, and go find these 5 guys and train them. That's like a dream of mine. I would love to go and do that. I would love to get this going on every tribe, but it's really kind of, not even practical to be able to do that. There's 500 and some tribes. And so what we really, first of all, we want to take care of home. We have a lot of buildings we need to get done here. And so I think going forward, what we need to do is we need to start inviting all the tribes here and to help us with these buildings, and then they can take that knowledge back to their community and start rebuilding their community. And it would be like a trade. You say we would charge them a lot of money, we wouldn't even need to. I think just that exchange, I guess, is enough to really to make a difference, I guess. I think there's not too many tribal communities out there that don't need this. There's probably only a few communities out there that are really, wealthy and well off and don't really, even have a care for it. But this is just assuming. I'm assuming for the most part, most of the tribes would love to rebuild their community.
And I was wondering, because we hear most of, well, a lot of the indigenous populations live pretty up north, and the weather is not what it is where you live, and there is the winter with below 0 temperature. And I was wondering if hemp could be a good material for housing in those particular conditions.
Yeah, we get really extreme conditions here too, whether it's cold, we get down to the super negative below 0 temperatures, but then we also get really hot and really humid in the summer. But what we've seen in case studies that we've looked into in colder climates anyway, the hempcrete actually outperforms the conventional wall system that they use in that area. And we've been told that they don't even need these big furnaces in these cold climates, that just a little wood stove on the coldest nights will heat the entire house. And so these are all, things we've heard and things we've read about, but it's going to be really interesting for us to be able to take that data or, that information and create our own numbers, and then be able to look back on it and then say, because nobody had built a hempcrete house in Minnesota yet. And so these few that we've built so far now, these are actually like case studies that we'll be able to do ourselves. And then we'll know, maybe we need to adjust something here, or maybe we overdid something there, whatever it is. I think it's really going to help us now that we have some structures here. But as far as in Canada, I know there's already structures there. I don't know exactly if they're in the coldest climates, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Gitxsan people in northern BC. They're a ways up there, and so it gets real cold where they're at too, and they're starting to also build with hempcrete. And I actually was fortunate enough to travel up there with my son. A lady of the name by Velma Sutherland invited us up there, and we did a Hempcrete workshop with her and with their community, and they're trying to do the same thing. They've already been growing hemp. They're getting into processing. Well, they're trying to get into processing, and then they've already done a demonstration shed out of Hempcrete, and now this year they want to try and at least do one small cabin house or something, that proof of concept house, and so they're starting, the fire is spreading. It's the hemp roots are growing, they're expanding, and that's pretty far out there, where they're at. They're in Western Canada, as far in northern BC as it gets. They're ways up there, and so it's so I think there is case studies out there, but I think each area, you'll have to, I guess, do your own case studies or do your own house and really know what you need, because this is just stuff we've been told or stuff we've read about houses that are in France or in South Africa or in Australia, or we didn't have any houses or case studies to look into in Minnesota. So we were kind of going in a little bit blind, but going off of all of the information we read is you don't need these big furnaces and you don't need these big air conditioners in the summertime in the hot climates. And so I think it's going to outperform our conventional wall from everything we've been told, and even just the little bit of stuff we've seen along the way. This winter we were building, or we had one of the structures up and it didn't have a furnace in it yet. And they say Hempcrete self-regulates humidity and self-regulates temperature to around 64 degrees. Well, every time we would go into the house, it always read 64 degrees, and so I don't know if that was, we didn't get any of the days really this winter. It was a pretty mild winter. And so I'm not comparing it to the coldest days of the winter, but just from what we've seen, it was always right around 64 degrees. And still now too, in the summertime, now that it's getting hot out, I went into that house and there were no air conditioners hooked up yet. Same thing, 64 degrees, right on the, on the thermostat always said 64 degrees. So, I mean, that just little bit of, what is that, 6 or 7 months of our own case study is already kind of, proven it to be true.
Also, when I look at it, what struck me is that this is really a community initiative. It's not an engineer coming from outside and telling you what to do. It's a homegrown project, if I can say, and you are in the center of it. I would like to have a bit of your own story. How do you fell in hemp?
Yeah. So I don't really like talking about myself, but I'll keep it short and sweet. So I just came in as a conventional builder, kind of a skeptic. Hearing these claims that you don't need a furnace, you don't need an air conditioner, there's no mold, that it's fire resistant, there's no pests, all these claims sound crazy. And so being a conventional builder, I came in as a super skeptic. But over time now, I am a complete believer, just seeing it with my own two eyes, I guess. And we didn't have any engineers come in or tell us what to do. We did have consultants that came in and taught us how to work with Hempcrete. And but as far as like the engineering and the architect, we didn't have one on our first project. We didn't have any. We had a hole in the ground in the community that had been there for 14 years. That was a crawl space for a house that was going to get put there that never got built. And basically got told, we're building a house here, make it a Hempcrete house. And that was all of the real direction we got. But it was great. One of our council members, he's our vice president now, he was on site with us. He was a builder in his past life, and now he's a tribal council, but he was, a great builder, still is a great builder. And so he was on site with us, side by side, sweating every day, building this house right with us. And so, I mean, that's like a story of its own that really hasn't gotten told, that is pretty incredible, because typically when you talk about tribal councils, you don't hear anything good. It's always like something bad. This guy was right side by side, kicking butt on the job site. And so I think that was really big to have that. We didn't have an architect or engineer, but we had his name's Bob, but we had Bob the builder on site with us, and so that was huge. But where I fell in, I guess, was just kind of my role is the project manager, but I kind of wear a lot of hats. I'm basically the buffer in between the hemp crew and the tribal council. So far has been it's been good though. Like I said, our leadership is really supportive of this. Our crew is absolutely amazing. We're all family members. So it's been great. I'm fortunate. I think I've actually been spoiled. I think I get a little bit too much credit for this. It's really a full team effort, full group effort. It starts from the bottom all the way to the top, and vice versa from the top down. We need each part of that link for this project to work. But then we were also fortunate enough to work with Cameron McIntosh of Amerishov. And so we had quite a few different consultants throughout the years, but he really kind of got us up over that hump as well. And so his company is out of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I would consider him to be probably the leading expert in hempcrete in the United States. And so once he came on board, and once he was our consultant, I don't even call him a consultant, that's my brother now, but when he came on as a consultant, that's what really pushed us up over that. He's a doer. There's a lot of talkers in the hemp industry, whereas he is an actual doer, and so it was a really good fit for us, and that's what really pushed us and really excelled us. And I think that's what really got us. It was a combination of everything, having our vice president of our tribal council on the site, teaming up with Cameron, and then having the crew of guys that we have. I mean, it was like a dream team. And so I've just been spoiled and fortunate enough to be a part of that. Like I said, I think I get a little bit too much credit. It's really the guys, the guys that are there, busting ass every single day. That's who should be getting all of the credit for sure.
Well, today we are the one who were spoiled because we are really honored, and wow, that was a great conversation. And now you have you put it your work building case studies, so we will have to keep in touch, and we will be really curious to know what will be the result of this beginning experience, but it sounds really promising. I was just thinking, wow, the corn start from around what is now New Mexico and spread all over the continent and give life to our ancestors and to us finally. And maybe I was sending to know, and I said, maybe this is you are the starting point for a new cultural, agricultural, and cultural evolution with a new, not new, but with a natural plant, with new use of a natural plant, the hemp. Wow, that's really something. You open the path of the future, if I can say.
Yeah, I hope it spreads like that, like you're saying, and we used to grow hemp everywhere in the United States, and then it got outlawed. And so now we just got to go back to our roots, I guess, and just start doing it. And I think it's a great blueprint that we're doing here for other tribes. Like I said, we don't have a big land mass. We don't have a lot of people. There's a lot of tribes out there that have a lot more people, a lot more land, and so they could really take this to the next level. I think even just like a cooperative would be amazing, for more tribes to start working together. Maybe this tribe doesn't have that much land, but this tribe has a lot of agriculture land, but this tribe has something, like we need to get back to that system of helping each other out and cooperating with each other. Even just America in a whole, not I'm not talking about tribes now. I'm talking about the entire, United States needs to start doing that, because we rely on outside countries so much. Like we don't want to admit that, but anytime a war happens, look at our, you can't even go to the store and buy a carton of eggs after the Ukraine war started and all that. The eggs had tripled in price, or a war happens wherever, then the gas prices are through the roof, or the corn prices start to go down, or the hog market is going crazy because of a war wherever. It's like we shouldn't be dependent on these outside countries. And so I'm saying, as America as a whole needs to start growing hemp and doing a lot more with the end product, and keeping that economy, basically rebuild our economy from within. And it can start off as just being small communities everywhere doing it, and then it'll catch fire. And I think there's just so much potential here that we're missing out on. We're doing ourselves an injustice by not really pushing this forward and making it happen. And we're the ones that got to do it. We're the consumer, and that's what it's going to be. The consumer's got to say, I want a better product. I'm not going to live in this plastic bubble house anymore. I'm not going to buy these bad materials anymore. Like we're the ones that got to stand up and say that as the consumer. Then it'll make the builder have to start building better houses out of better materials, and that's when the change happens. We have to make it happen. This isn't some magic silver bullet that's just going to come flying in. Hemp is not that. That's what people want it to be, this big savior. We're the ones that have to make it happen. It's just, this is the vehicle that can take us there.
Words of wisdom, and like seeds, we hope that they will find their ground in one of our listeners in Canada or in the United States, and help the movement to go forward. So we are really thankful, Danny, that you take all this time to speak about that wonderful project. And how much people do you have in your community?
I don't know exactly how many live right here on the reservation, but we keep it to a 10-mile radius, and I think it's no more than 2,000 people. I think it's less than 2,000 total with all the kids and everything. That might even be a little bit of a high number. We might be closer to like 1,700 or something like that. I don't know the exact number. Not a very big community. We only have 2,000 acres total for our land mass, and we just bought 500 of those this past year. And so we were at 1,500 acres before that, and not much of it is farmable land. We have the river valley running through here, and so you can't farm that area. And so yeah, we don't have a big landmass or a lot of people, so we probably shouldn't even be the ones starting this. Like it's kind of odd that we're the ones doing it. There's communities out there that could, like I said, really take it to the next level.
Well, you maybe you have not the land, but you have the passion, and maybe that's make you the starting point rather than other. So thank you again, and I remember to everybody that each Wednesday we have at noon we have this podcast, sometimes in French, sometimes in English, sometimes in Spanish. So we try to cover all the indigenous initiative, artistic, architectural and cultural all over Americas. And wow, that's one of the very good podcasts we had today. Thanks to you, Danny. Mm-hmm. And we hope that there and other we will have the opportunity to welcome you in Canada, in Montreal, to speak about this wonderful initiative.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and yeah, thanks for helping spread the word, spread the message. So.
Thanks. C'est fini.